I never thought I'd be sitting in a courtroom defending myself against domestic violence charges. 6 months ago, if someone had told me my wife of 12 years would accuse me of assault, I would have laughed. But here I was, facing a judge, a jury, and the very real possibility of losing everything I'd worked for, including my relationship with my son. My name is Michael, and this is the story of how I discovered that the woman I loved was not only trying to destroy my life, but had been systematically stealing from our son's future for years. It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I was getting ready for work when 2 police officers knocked on my door. They had a warrant for my arrest, domestic violence charges filed by my wife, Linda. I remember staring at the paperwork, reading the words over and over, trying to make sense of what was happening. There must be some mistake, I told them. I've never laid a hand on my wife, but they weren't interested in explanations. They read me my rights and took me downtown. As we drove away, I saw Linda watching from the living room window. She didn't look upset. She looked satisfied. The charges were serious. Linda claimed I had pushed her down the stairs during an argument about money. She had photos of bruises, medical records from the emergency room, and even text messages where I supposedly threatened her. The problem was, none of it was real. I hired a lawyer immediately. Patricia Hendricks was recommended by a colleague, and she had a reputation for handling difficult cases. When I showed her the evidence against me, she frowned. Michael, these photos, they're time-stamped from last Wednesday night. Where were you then? I was in Chicago for the Morrison conference. I have hotel receipts, flight records. I wasn't even in the state. Patricia's eyes lit up. That's good. That's very good. If we can prove you weren't here when these alleged incidents occurred, we can show this is fabricated. But Linda was smart. She had an answer for everything. She claimed the photos were from a different incident, that I had assaulted her weeks earlier, but she was too scared to report it immediately. She had her lover, Trevor Morrison, yes, that Morrison, my business partner, backing up her timeline. I should have seen it coming. Linda and Trevor had been spending a lot of time together, supposedly working on some charity fundraiser, but the signs were all there. Late meetings, the secretive phone calls, the way she'd smile when her phone buzzed with text messages. The divorce proceedings started simultaneously with the criminal case. Linda wanted everything, the house, the business, and primary custody of our 11-year-old son, Connor. She painted me as an unstable, violent man who couldn't be trusted around children. Connor was confused and scared. During my supervised visits, he'd ask me why Mommy said I hurt her, why I couldn't come home anymore. How do you explain to your child that his mother is lying? How do you maintain his innocence while fighting for your own freedom? Dad, did you really push Mom? He asked during one visit. No, Connor, I would never hurt your mother or you. Sometimes adults, sometimes they make mistakes or get confused about what happened. I couldn't tell him the truth. Not yet. The financial discovery phase of the divorce revealed some interesting information. Linda was demanding significant alimony and child support, claiming she needed to maintain the lifestyle Connor was accustomed to. But when Patricia requested our bank records, something didn't add up. Michael, look at this, Patricia said during one of our meetings. Connor's college trust fund should have over $200,000 in it by now. You've been contributing $500 a month for 11 years, plus the initial deposit from your parents. I pulled out my own records. That's right, plus the investment growth. It should be substantial. According to the bank, there's less than $30,000 in the account. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. Where did the money go? Patricia was already on her phone with the bank. Within an hour, we had transaction records going back 2 years. Systematic withdrawals. $5,000 here, $10,000 there, all authorized by Linda as the co-trustee of Connor's account. She's been stealing from your son, Patricia said quietly. This changes everything. But we needed more evidence. Linda could claim the withdrawals were for Connor's benefit, private school tuition, medical expenses, enrichment activities. We needed to prove she was using the money for other purposes. That's when Trevor made his first mistake. He showed up to court driving a brand new BMW X7, $70,000 worth of luxury vehicle, and according to his tax returns, he couldn't afford it. Patricia's investigator, a former police detective named Ramon Silva, started digging into Trevor's finances. Interesting pattern, Ramon reported back. Trevor's been making cash deposits to his checking account that coincide perfectly with the withdrawals from Connor's trust fund. He's not very good at covering his tracks. The criminal trial was scheduled first. As I sat in the defendant's chair watching Linda take the witness stand, I felt like I was living in someone else's nightmare. She looked the part of the battered wife, conservative dress, minimal makeup, speaking in a soft, shaky voice. He became increasingly violent over the past year, she testified. The arguments about money got worse, and when I questioned some of his business decisions, he would lose control. Did the defendant ever threaten you directly? The prosecutor asked. Yes, he said. He said if I ever tried to leave him or take Connor away, he would make sure I regretted it. I watched the jury's faces. Some looked sympathetic, others seemed skeptical, especially when Linda couldn't provide specific dates or consistent details about the alleged threats. Then came the cross-examination. Mrs. Morrison, Patricia began. You testified that you were afraid of my client, correct? Yes. Yet phone records show you called him 17 times on the day you filed these charges. Is that the behavior of someone who's afraid? Linda's composure slipped slightly. I was trying to work things out by filing criminal charges. That seems contradictory, the prosecutor objected, but Patricia had made her point. Mrs. Morrison, are you familiar with your son's college trust fund? Of course. How much money is currently in that account? Linda glanced at her lawyer, who was already standing to object. I don't see how that's relevant to the assault charges. Your Honor, Patricia addressed the judge, the defendant's financial stress has been cited as a motive for the alleged violence. The state of the family's finances is absolutely relevant. I'll allow it. Please answer the question. Linda shifted uncomfortably. I'm not sure of the exact amount. Would it surprise you to learn that over $170,000 has been withdrawn from that account in the past 2 years? The courtroom went silent. Even the prosecutor looked surprised. Those were legitimate expenses for Connor's benefit. Patricia approached the witness stand with a thick folder. Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that these withdrawals were not for the child's benefit, but were instead used to fund an extramarital affair. The prosecutor shot to his feet. Objection. This is a criminal trial for domestic violence, not a divorce proceeding. Your Honor, Patricia responded calmly, the prosecution has argued that financial stress motivated my client's alleged violence. We have the right to show that any financial stress was caused by the complainant's own actions, not my client's. Behavior. Judge Harrison, a stern man in his 60s, considered this carefully. I'll allow it, but keep it relevant to the charges at hand. What happened next still gives me chills. Patricia presented bank records, credit card statements, and receipts showing that Linda had systematically drained Connor's trust fund to pay for expensive dinners, hotel rooms, and gifts, all shared with Trevor Morrison. The jury watched in stunned silence as the evidence mounted. Mrs. Morrison, did you use your son's college money to finance your relationship with Trevor Morrison? Linda's lawyer was objecting constantly now, but the damage was done. Linda's credibility was shattered. I borrowed the money temporarily. I was going to pay it back. You borrowed your 11-year-old son's college fund without his knowledge or consent to buy your boyfriend expensive gifts. It wasn't like that, but it was exactly like that. The most dramatic moment came when Patricia called Trevor to the stand. I watched Linda's face as he was sworn in. She looked terrified. Trevor had been granted immunity in exchange for his testimony. His lawyer had advised him to tell the truth and cooperate fully. Mr. Morrison, what is your relationship with the complainant? We've been having an affair for about 18 months. Did Mrs. Morrison ever discuss her husband with you? Yes. She said she wanted to divorce him but was worried about the financial settlement. Did she ever mention wanting to gain an advantage in divorce proceedings? Trevor looked directly at Linda. She said if she could prove he was violent, she could get everything, the house, the business, custody of Connor. Did she ever ask you to help her create evidence of violence? The prosecutor was on his feet again, but Trevor was already answering. She asked me to help her stage some photographs. She said it would just be for the divorce, to get a better settlement. The courtroom erupted. Judge Harrison banged his gavel repeatedly, calling for order. Mr. Morrison, are you testifying that the complainant asked you to help fabricate evidence against the defendant? Yes, sir. She practiced falling down the stairs. She took pictures of bruises she gave herself. She even asked me to write some fake threatening text messages from Michael's phone when he was out of town. I watched the jury's faces. Shock, disgust, disbelief. Several jurors were shaking their heads. Linda was crying now, but not the sympathetic tears she'd shown earlier. These were tears of panic. Your Honor, her lawyer stood up. My client would like to request a recess to consider her options. But it was too late. Trevor's testimony had destroyed her credibility completely. The prosecutor, to his credit, asked for the charges to be dismissed. Your Honor, in light of this new testimony, the state cannot proceed with confidence in this case. Judge Harrison looked at Linda with undisguised. Mrs. Morrison, in my 30 years on this bench, I have rarely seen such a calculated attempt to pervert the course of justice. Filing false domestic violence charges is not only a disservice to real victims, but it's a felony in this state. Linda's lawyer was whispering urgently in her ear, but she looked like she was in shock. Furthermore, the judge continued, the evidence suggests you have committed theft from a minor's trust account and conspiracy to commit perjury. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for immediate investigation. The criminal charges against me were dismissed with prejudice, but the real victory came in family court 2 weeks later. Armed with Trevor's testimony and the financial evidence, Patricia painted a clear picture of Linda's deception. The family court judge awarded me primary custody of Connor and ordered Linda to repay every penny stolen from his trust fund. With interest, Linda was eventually charged with perjury, filing false reports, and theft. She pled guilty to avoid a trial and received 2 years probation and community service. Trevor lost his law license and faced his own charges for conspiracy. The hardest part was explaining everything to Connor. I waited until the dust settled and the custody arrangement was finalized. Dad, why did Mom lie about you hurting her? We were sitting in our new apartment. smaller than the house, but it was ours. Sometimes people make very bad choices when they're scared or angry. Your mother was afraid of how the divorce would turn out, so she made up stories to try to get an advantage. But that's not fair. No, it's not fair, and that's why we have courts and judges, to figure out what's true and what's fair. Connor was resilient, as kids often are. He started seeing a counselor to help him process everything, and slowly we rebuilt our relationship and our life. Linda sees Connor every other weekend now under supervised visitation. She's required to pay child support and continue repaying the trust fund. Last I heard, she was working as a paralegal, having lost her real estate license due to the felony conviction. Trevor moved to another state. I bought out his share of the business at a significant discount, considering his legal troubles. The experience taught me that you never really know someone completely. I thought Linda and I had built something strong over 12 years of marriage. I thought Trevor was a friend and trusted business partner. But when money and emotions are involved, people can become strangers. Connor asks me sometimes if I'm angry at his mother. I'm sad that she made such bad choices, I tell him. But I'm not angry anymore. Being angry doesn't help anyone, and that's true. The anger I felt during those months of false accusations and legal battles has faded. What remains is gratitude. Gratitude for the truth coming out, for gaining primary custody of my son, and for learning who my real friends are. Patricia Hendricks became more than just my lawyer. She became a friend. Ramon Silva, the investigator, still sends Connor birthday cards. Even Judge Harrison, who could have let the criminal charges proceed despite the questionable evidence, showed wisdom and integrity in how he handled the case. 3 years later, Connor and I have a strong relationship. He's doing well in school, plays soccer, and rarely mentions the court proceedings anymore. The money stolen from his trust fund has been repaid in full, and he'll still have what he needs for college. I've started dating again, carefully and slowly. Trust doesn't come easily after what I've been through, but I'm learning that not everyone is Linda. Most people are honest and decent, even when relationships don't work out. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Patricia hadn't been thorough enough to check Connor's trust fund, or if Trevor hadn't gotten scared and decided to tell the truth. I could have been convicted of crimes I didn't commit. I could have lost my son, my business, everything I'd worked for. But the truth has a way of coming out, especially when good people are willing to work hard to find it. The experience changed me. I'm more cautious now, more aware of the signs when something isn't right. But I'm also more grateful for the genuine relationships in my life and more committed to protecting what matters most. Connor and I talk about trust sometimes. I tell him that trust is earned slowly and can be lost quickly, but that doesn't mean we should stop trusting people altogether. It means we should be wise about who we trust and to what extent. Will you ever trust Mom again? He asked me recently. I thought carefully before answering. I trust that your mother loves you even though she made terrible choices, but I'll never trust her the same way I did before, and that's okay. People have to earn trust back after they break it. Looking back, the signs were all there. The secretive behavior, the unexplained absences, the defensive attitude when I asked questions about money or schedules. But when you love someone, you often explain away the red flags instead of investigating them. I won't make that mistake again. Today, Connor and I live in a modest house about 10 minutes from his school. We have dinner together every night, work on homework together, and spend weekends doing things we both enjoy. It's a simple life, but it's honest and peaceful. Sometimes the simple truth is the most powerful thing of all. In my case, the truth saved my freedom, my relationship with my son, and my future. It also taught me that justice, while sometimes delayed, usually finds a way to prevail when good people are willing to fight for it. That's a lesson I hope Connor carries with him for the rest of his life. The courtroom drama was just the beginning of rebuilding everything Linda had tried to destroy. But in the end, the truth was stronger than her lies, and love was stronger than her deception. That's what I choose to remember from those dark months, not the betrayal, but the victory of truth and justice, and that's a story worth telling.